Screw it. Hey everyone, welcome to a review episode of Let's Screw This Up. This is the first review for the channel. This is because I wanted to tell as many people about this game as I can. The game itself is Chaos Galaxy by Chaos Galaxy Studios. This is their second game, a 2D tactical turn-based 4X strategy game. Which is a mouthful, I know. With the retro-like sprite work, it looks super pretty. It reminds me of old school games for the SNES or older PC games. Now, I'm a big fan of turn-based games and tactical shooters, which they mash into a 4X strategy game. This is not my first 4X game by a long shot. This is one of the more recent ones that got me thinking in a way I haven't in a really long time. Now let me explain. I started playing, running through the little tutorial of 3 missions that explain how to recruit/build ships, investing in your empire, and attacking an enemy. Which on the surface, it's a game that's easy to learn but hard to master, which is probably why I didn't feel like I understood what I was doing till about my 4th game. The short answer is this: you get thrown into the shit right off the bat. But this got me thinking about the game long after I'd stopped for the day. Was I doing something wrong? Should I strike while the iron is hot, or do I wait and hold off the enemy and invest in my growing empire? The short answer is yes, which I know doesn't make sense. Now with that being said, it's not all bad. But let's explain the story before we get to the nitty gritty. So this galaxy-spanning empire was invaded by an alien army, which was repelled, but in the process the emperor was killed. Afterward, a vassal empire rebelled. During the war, their homeworld was nuked, which brings us to where we start the game. An empire in decline, enemies without and within, more rebellions, religious fanatics, AI uprisings, mercenaries, traitors, it goes on. So, to be honest, the story's nothing really to write home about. You know, we've been playing this story for years, which is fine because the game isn't exactly about the starting story. It's about what happens to you while you play it. Much like Stellaris, events will happen that will affect what happens to the Empire as a whole. As the game goes on, a vassal rebels again, a coup happens, alliances shift, shit goes down is the short answer. Of course, this only really matters if you're playing one of the 4 vassal empires of the Imperial Court. Now, there are 14 factions to choose from, starting with the Empire factions, which relate north, south, east, and west, basically. 2 traders, which gain money when they make deals, 2 mercenaries that can be hired, 2 robot rebellions, 2 pirates, which are bullshit. Okay, they aren't bullshit. They're actually 2 of the hardest factions to play, but have a nice bonus which I'll explain later. So when you start playing, chances are you'll pick one of the Imperial factions, which means you have allies, but the 15th faction, the Imperial Court, controls you as vassal, which is nice. You have friends helping control the galaxy and the other various factions fighting over planet and the accompanying resources, but this means you don't have control over your empire and you can only really speak with the Imperial. So it's an interesting balance. But you don't want to be under the so-called Imperial thumb. You're a strong, independent empire, right? You don't need no Imperial Court. Yeah, this is where the game starts to balance itself out pretty well. See, pirates get missiles, which I mentioned earlier was crap. That's because if you play the standard Imperials, you mostly get 2 types of ship weapons. Firstly is cannons, which, let's face it, it's never not fun to shout, "Fire the cannons!" at the top of your lungs. And lances, which are lasers and are more accurate and do more damage, but you need to shoot in a straight line, which will have you lining up shots left and right. Unless you can use your cannons, which have shorter range, more shots, less accuracy, but you can shoot on an angle. So cannons have range 2, so 2 forward, 1 angle, while missiles have range 3, 3 forward, 2 on an angle. See where we're getting at? Now you have shields. Wait, take a moment and think about this. Shields are a thing in this universe, but they only block lances and cost energy. Suddenly where I haven't explained it. So real quick, power is equivalent to hit points. That makes sense. Kinda. Energy, which you use to fire weapons, use shields, the radar, using focus. Energy is what you're going to be using mostly for the game. And finally, morale, which isn't important unless you lose your flagship, which halves the morale of all units in your fleet. If your morale goes to 0, they retreat from the battle, you can't use them, but they will come back when your fleet returns. If your fleet gets wiped out, your hero and any other accompanying retreating ships eventually come back. It's usually about 2 or 3 turns before they pop up somewhere. So shields block lances, arguably one of the most useful and powerful ranged weapons. So you'll fire cannons at pirates, but they have terrible accuracy. I once fired 10 shots at a pirate ship, and they all freaking missed. I actually found it was easier to barrage their ships with lances and chew away their energy till they couldn't defend against me anymore than firing cannons and hoping for the best. So playing an independent empire, it usually has a cool unit or weapon that gives you a bonus to help you compete against the Imperial, which starts the game having all allied together, but you get complete control over who you fight and ally with. On top of that, the internal politics that could affect your plans. The Imperial Court sometimes just pops up in random events and makes you do stuff. This is an interesting choice. Now, other games like Total War 3 Kingdoms or Hearts of Iron 4 have done this, but now you can do it in space in what feels like a 2D anime space opera, which admittedly is pretty freaking cool. Now that we've talked about combat and the other different factions and politics, I want to talk about the policies tree. This is your research, but you need to spend money and it still takes time in the game. On my first somewhat successful game, I ignored it for much of the early game. I bought the battleship upgrade and worried more about fighting pirates and investing in my empire than actually advancing down the tree till much later in the game. When the galaxy was more or less at peace for a couple of minutes, and I didn't have to worry about fighting 2 or 3 wars the Imperials decided I had to fight for them, this is where I invested in the policy tree. This is daunting in the early game. When you're fighting said 2 or 3 wars, and these are really expensive, especially at the start when you really don't have the money to advance down the tree, and you should really be investing in the planets that you have and conquering more before really exploring this all the way through. Especially since you need the money to create the ships while you still need supply to produce the ships and keep up supply of your fleets. It's a big balancing act. So with all that being said, you're probably asking yourself, why does he want to recommend this game? It's difficult at the start, especially if you choose the harder faction to start with. The combat is a bit flawed and you might find yourself resetting the game 2 or 3 times before you feel like you really have a grip of what you're doing. So why am I recommending it? Well, it's super fun and fast-paced. Even with planning and plotting, I found that turns didn't take that long, and the computer acted very quickly, if stupidly at times. Each faction feels different. They all have some unique units and different play styles. The mechs and ships look cool and do this kind of Fire Emblem Advanced War style of play, which is a nice twist. This is probably going to be the closest I'm going to get to a Gundam style game like this. So if you're into turn-based tactical games, this is for you. Do you like story space operas? Sci-fi space anime games that let you think but force you to think on your feet? This is the game for you. It's not for everyone, but for the $15 on Steam, it's worth the price of admission. I honestly hope they continue to make games like this. The mechanics are well thought out and the units and factions are different and varied, and playing a different faction on a different part of the galaxy give you a totally different feel. So if you start in the north, you're fighting pirates. If you start in the south, you're trying to balance the pirates and the religious fanatics. You know, if you want to be on the other end of the empire, you'll see new and different things generally in just about every other playthrough. Heartily recommend this game. It's cheap for a game that you can replay a dozen times without a problem. It's a new challenge for you each time. The factions are different. It's a lot of fun. At the time of writing this script, I have put in 30 hours in just a few days. I mean, I am very much addicted to this game. I want to play different factions, feel out different things, that sort of stuff. Once again, guys, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, all that YouTuber crap, and stay tuned for more videos. I will eventually be doing a playthrough of this. When we get to that point, I want to do some more other videos first. So thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and stay shiny. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. Please feel free to check out any of my other videos, and you can also find me on Facebook and Amazon. Have a good one.